This has been an incredibly entertaining World Cup with all-time game after all-time game. Mexico, England, classic. Cape Verde, Argentina, classic. All kinds of underdog, crazy runs. I mentioned Cape Verde again. Just goalkeepers this World Cup have been on crack on a different level. 4 different goal scorers on 6 or more goals before the quarterfinals is stuff you haven't seen since like the Harry S. Truman presidency. It's been insane. This has by all means been just an incredible World Cup. Now all the people from a year or two ago on social media who were calling soccer dead and boring, they're looking pretty stupid right now. But this has also not been a World Cup without controversies, notably Argentina-Egypt today. Now, before I get any further, I have to put a few clarifications out there. I don't like Ronaldo. I've never been a fan of him. There is a fine line between ego and just self-centeredness that ruins everything for everybody. And Ronaldo, for a while now, has been like an ultra marathon past that line. It's too much. You don't need any further evidence than his interview after the Portugal lost to Spain, but that's a whole different story. There's also the allegations against him, which he admitted to. That's also a whole different story. If you know, you know. Clarification 2, I like Messi. I've been a Barcelona fan since I was 12 years old. Neymar was my first ever favorite player, and Messi has been he's been the definition of what I've known about soccer throughout my lifetime. He is an incredible player. I was happy for him when Argentina won the 2022 World Cup, and he's a cool dude. I like Messi. Number 3, I went into this Argentina-Egypt game as a neutral. I was ready for Argentina to smack Egypt up just 3-0 or something. 3-0 was my prediction. Egypt, I didn't think they looked incredible against Australia, and Argentina have had a mostly pretty solid World Cup. I did not know Egypt was going to do all that. And I went into this game, you know, just as a neutral, ready to be entertained by any goal that was scored. But as soon as Egypt started doing all that, I started rooting for the underdog. There was like a table full of Egyptian fans, like at the venue I was watching this game at, chill watch party venue. All that is to say that you are not hearing this from a Ronaldo fan. You are not hearing this from somebody who wants Messi to do badly. I've been incredibly impressed by Messi so far this tournament, and I hope he keeps it up. But Argentina robbed Egypt, or a more accurate way to put it would be the referees robbed Egypt. At halftime, the spirits were high. I was wondering how long Egypt could keep all this up, and I mean, to everybody's amazement, they just kept on carrying on, continued just looking like the better team than Argentina, which led to 2-0, only it wasn't 2-0 because the goal got rolled out due to a foul that happened almost at the corner spot all the way across the pitch. And like that was a complete shame because you had just an unprecedentedly good run by, his name was Hassan. I did not know this guy before this game. He went on a crazy run past 2 different Argentinian players trying to stop him on his way down the right flank. Gives the ball to Salah. Salah picks out a pin needle pass to Zico, who has an incredible finish. 2-0, but then it got ruled out. VAR simply went too far there. You had all 3 of those elements happening all after that foul. An unprecedentedly good dribble by Hassan. Great pass by Salah. Great finish by Zico. Which, by the way, I love the fact that you have like a couple of different Egyptian players with like Brazilian sounding nicknames. But that's beside the point. I don't know, that was ridiculous. The commentators thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous. The people around me in that venue who were not Argentina fans, that was pretty ridiculous. And the crazy thing is that by all logic, the referee didn't do anything that really went against the laws of the game and ruling that go out, but this just goes to show that VAR has still not been fully implemented the way it should be, and it's been 6 years now. The fact that we don't have all these guidelines to clarify what you can and cannot do with VAR is kind of ridiculous. And it's my opinion that you should not have a VAR call with the ability to look at what happened all the way across the field. And we'll get more on that later. I understand that 15 seconds passed by in the lead up to that goal. It's a really quick counterattack. But, I mean, if you're looking at the spirit of the game, like, that was a travesty. And I know spirit of the game may not be the most convincing argument to some people, but it still is an argument. You have to look at the aesthetic of the game when looking at how to implement VAR. And that, I will say, that is perhaps the weaker of the 2 points that I will be making, but it is a valid point in my opinion. Now, I want to give a shout out to Egypt once again. They were so much better than I thought they would be this game, and they were so much better than I saw them play against Australia. The goalkeeper, Mustafa Shober, if I'm saying that right, just continued the trend of goalkeepers putting in like lifetime defining performances throughout this World Cup. I was saying Vazini is gone, but like bro's spirit is living on. I made him sound like he died, but Mustafa Shober was incredible, at least until at the 80th minute. I also have to give credit to the trio of Hassan, Salah, and Zico, who all three of them combined for that goal that got ruled out. But not 10 minutes later, I thought they were going to be rattled. I thought they were going to just play with low confidence after that goal got rolled out. But not 10 minutes later, the three of them combined once again, this time with Hassan himself providing the assist to make it 2-0, as it perhaps should have been already. But of course, we know how the game ended. And I mean, there's that saying that everybody knows 2-0 is the most dangerous score. And we saw exactly why today. Egypt, I will say it again, they got robbed. They also should have not let their guard down like they did. I don't even know if that's the right way to put it, but like the defense, who had done so well up to this point, were looking American for the final 15 minutes. I feel that's a very accurate way to put it. They looked like the American defense from the Belgium game. They were not winning what they should have been winning in the air. They were not marking the Argentinian attackers as they should have done, knowing that Argentina is going to throw everything they have at them those final minutes. Messi, who I've been hyping up, he just turned into prime Pele again, which is crazy for a 37-year-old to be able to do, but he's doing it. Game was tied, and then we got to goal number 3 for Argentina, and that was a Messi goal with a Y at the end of Messi. Now, normally that would be a perfectly fine goal that nobody has anything against, but the unfortunate thing is that second goal that Egypt scored that got disallowed, that now sets precedent that you have to scrutinize every moment within a counterattack that leads out to a goal. And it just so happens that you had 2 different arguments that the Egypt team is making for fouls before Egypt lost the ball that led to Argentina scoring the game-winning goal. Now, I went back and took a look, and the guy off the ball, I forgot his name, but the guy off the ball who fell, that was a slip. I will give that. However, Salah's foot within the penalty area got a little bit clipped, marginally clipped by the defender while Salah was dispossessed. And that would be a very harsh, in my opinion, a pretty stupid foul to call a penalty, like at this stage in the World Cup. But if you're going to call a foul on the other side of the pitch in the lead up to a goal, you have to call a foul that happens on the other side of the pitch. If you're a harsh referee, you can very well call that a foul against Salah. So now you have a pretty dangerous precedent, because if they were to go back and call that a penalty, against Salah for that foul, that would have been stupid. That would have been stupid. But given what you've done to disallow that goal from Egypt, that is now what you have to do, given the precedent that you've set. So I'm saying you should not go that far back at all, or else you're going to run into drama like that. It was pretty unlucky for the referees, honestly, that you had that series of events line up, but that is what you risk when you make a VAR call like that, to disallow that goal. Now, you can say I've perhaps been hyperbolic in saying that Egypt got robbed. Would the game have been any different if that goal stood and they then parked the bus at that point in the game instead of 10 minutes later? Who knows? That's a whole butterfly effect question. There's no knowing what would have happened. But, I mean, the main issue is the precedent. That is argument number 2 I have as to the use of VAR within this game. And I believe that, that issue of precedent is by far the stronger argument that just, I don't know, condemns the use of VAR in Argentina, Egypt today. After that goal was disallowed, I wasn't happy with that. I was saying we should not use VAR to, look back at the other half of the field in order to determine whether a goal should stand or not. That, I disagree with that now. I would go final third perhaps as a solution. But, I mean, if you're going back as far as the penalty area within the pitch to look at the build-up of play within a game in determining a major decision, I mean, obviously you have to for sure know that you're calling a penalty to call a penalty. You can't just call any really light foul within the box. But, I mean, that should illustrate how we should not go that far back within the pitch to call a foul via VAR in the build-up play to a goal. So yeah, that's my opinion. You should implement a rule that VAR cannot look back at the final third of the other side of the pitch while analyzing whether or not anything should happen, a goal should stand, or a red card should be given, or whatever. But anyway, rest in peace, Egypt, for the 2026 World Cup. They had a very impressive tournament. They picked up their first ever World Cup win, and not only did they do that in the group stage by beating New Zealand, they won their first ever World Cup knockout game by beating Canada on penalties. They're looking pretty good. They really took it to Argentina. They were the better team for the majority of the game, which I don't think anybody saw that coming. But they're looking good for the future. I would say Mohamed Salah was not treated like a star player this game. They utilized him like they would any attacking player on their team, and they had a lot of capable players who were able to do stuff without the influence of Salah. So after Salah's gone, I think Egypt can keep on doing well, building up their team for the future. Argentina, meanwhile, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but I'm asking questions about them. I mean, Messi's having an all-time tournament, yet they have only scraped by both Capo Verde, they got Vozinha, but like, that's a team, if we're being real, you should be beating as Argentina more convincingly than a late extra time win. They only beat Egypt 3-2. Again, like you should be winning more convincingly. The defense has looked so complacent, and that's definitely been an issue with the team, complacency, especially in that defense. At this point in the power ranking, I would put, both France and Spain ahead of them. But they're also more approaching the kind of territory of like England, Morocco, though, when it comes to favorites for the whole World Cup. Like, they have kind of sunk a little bit, like, in this knockout stage. They're not as convincing as they were in the group stage. But, like, I mean, with Messi playing like Pele, though, you can do anything. They can still win the World Cup, absolutely. Just, make a few tweaks, shed the complacency. I don't know, do what you know you can as Argentina, as the defending champions who are still as solid as ever. So while Egypt got robbed, I will say they got robbed, Croatia got mega robbed. Now, I will concede that Croatia should have been better like all throughout the game. And I mean, I wasn't that impressed by either team, but Croatia definitely could have played better. I haven't really been that impressed by them all tournament, and they're definitely past their golden age. But I still think like the players that played had the capability of doing better than they did. But all of a sudden, Portugal have not closed the game out, and very final kick of the game, you've got Guardiola just knocking the ball into the net. Nobody suspected anything about any offsides, no foul, no nothing. And the team's in absolute jubilation. Like, all the subs running on everything. But the only problem is the ball brushed the hair of Igor Martinovic, and therefore was offsides. Now again, the decision by the referee abided by the laws of the game. But the laws of the game were just stupid on this occasion. Like, you cannot have a guy's hair being factored in, like, when you decide whether a tournament-saving goal should be allowed or not. A player's hair does not affect the game. The same way a player's arm does not affect the game. And we've discounted the use of arms when, deciding what's offside or not. How are you using a guy's hair to rule out a goal? Now, they used the ball sensory technology in order, they had to go that far. They had to use the ball sensory technology in order to determine that it even touched Matanovic's hair. That's absurd. Croatia are definitely the most robbed team this tournament. Again, I don't know what would have happened in the Egypt game if that goal had stood. We may have reached the same conclusion anyway. The defense looked worn out. They looked American by the end of the game. However, that Croatia-Portugal game, definitely the most unjust one all tournament so far. I mean, that being said, though, Croatia should have been better out to that point, and who knows what would have happened in extra time. Portugal goes out anyway to Spain, but nothing's been like, tournament altering decision-wise, VAR-wise, but these are definitely conversations that got to be had, that should be looked at. We need more VAR guidelines. Again, we got VAR. I remember it happened around COVID. We've had VAR for 6 years now. The fact that we still don't have clear guidelines as to what you can and cannot do with it is pretty ridiculous. We need that. We needed that yesterday. We needed it 6 years ago, if we're being honest. I support the use of VAR. It has done kind of an unspoken great job in just eradicating a lot of referee subjectivity within the game. There's like a lot of examples in the past that you could take and have VAR have impacted in the past that it denied. Like, we have a fairer game because of VAR now, but we also have a whole new set of complications that we have to take care of. This is something that people have been saying forever, but we need to make sure that we implement VAR in a way that is fair for the game and beneficial for the game's aesthetic. And we haven't really seen the latter as much as we would have hoped to up to this point. As for the ball sensory technology, I don't care to scrap that. We don't need that. If the only thing we're using it for is to determine whether it brushed a guy's hair or not, we don't need that. That's technology going too far. Scrap it. But if you made it this far, thank you for making it this far. I'm going to be putting more videos out like this. I'm going to be putting a bunch out. So stay tuned. Subscribe. Peace.